Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing one of the first deck profiles for OP14/EBO4, and it is a deck that I used to like really a lot, to be perfectly honest, but it was a deck that was definitely missing a couple of things, and that is OP12's Kuzan. Obviously, it's been featured on the channel a couple of times, but unfortunately, I did start to realize that there was a couple things missing from it. But thanks to EBO4 and EBO3 to eventually come out in the near future, this deck is really solid. It's got some really good support, and I'm going to show you guys the list I will be playing. There are proxies in this list, mainly for the fact that it is just before OP14's release, and I haven't got my chance to obtain all the cards yet. Well, luckily enough, it's only one playset of cards in this deck. However, there is obviously some cards that are omitted from this list currently because they are not out, and I will get to that when we get to the little bit of changes that will come in EBO3. I will also show you the, optimal curve for this deck, going first and, going second if you can. So, considering the fact that this is much more before EBO3 and before EBO4 and OP14, a lot of the things do kind of stay the same, other than one of the best cards in this deck, or some of the ratios in this deck, should I say, being changed a little bit. So, to start, we are on 4 copies of, if I can actually get it right, 4 copies of the Searcher Tashigi. This card is still just as good as when it came out, or with the deck, to be perfectly honest. It's one of these cards that I always think is... I really want to get more all arts for it because the all art looks really nice, and at the moment, well, last time I checked, it was fairly cheap, and obviously it's a searcher. You know what searchers do. Searchers are one of the best things in the game at the moment, and well, just in general, because a lot of the time they have really good value. And another 4 of, probably one of the main 2Ks of the entire deck, is 4 copies of Hina. Hina is also one of the weirdest 2Ks because it's also one of the 2Ks you actually play fairly often, because in most different instances, the effect to rest his character, discard a card, triggering leader effect, as well as, being able to actually stun one of your opponent's blockers. More specifically, in the case of something like Ace, you can stun their marker blocker fairly easily. And another 4 of, probably one of the best 4s in this entire deck, that is 3 cost Searcher Sengoku. This card is absolutely cracked in most, if not all, instances when you can play him, especially on your optimal turn to play, because obviously you essentially go +1. Actually, you probably even go +2, because you get to search 2 cards off of the Sengoku, as well as, simply, you get to discard a card and then draw 1 off of leader effect. Then, one of the main mid-range version, or mid-range plays of the deck, should I say, I can't speak English today, is 6 cost Kuzan. Obviously, if you guys don't know what this card does, if you have 5 or more cards in hand, this card gains +1 cost. Then, on play, you may discard a card from your hand up to one of your opponent's characters cannot attack until your opponent's next end phase. This card does not have a cost limit. You can pretty much stun anything. If your opponent decides to be a little bit greedy and not swing with a Roger or a Shanks if they're playing Roger for whatever reason, you can play down this Kuzan, discard a card, go essentially +1, and be able to stun a Rusher. And then one of the probably other best cards in this entire deck, that is a cost guard. We are playing 4 of them. He is definitely also one of the best cards in the entire game. You may trash a card from your hand and play up to 1 blue Navy character with 8,000 power from your hand other than himself. That's pretty much anything in the deck. Kuzan, one of the next cards we're going to get onto, which is obviously the 7 cost Sakazuki. This is always one of the cards that I was very hit or miss on for a while. I did actually go down to 3 on it, but I can definitely understand why people would play it at 4. On play, if your leader has Navy type, you draw 2 cards, and activate main once per turn. You may discard a card from your hand, give a rested Don to leader or character. You will start to notice a theme with this deck. The discarding always triggers leader effect, and just in case you don't know what it does, whenever a card is discarded from your hand by a Navy type effect, you may draw cards equal to the number you discarded. That effect triggers constantly. You are always going to have cards in your hands to play and cards in your hands to discard, especially when it comes to some of the bricks of the deck. Then on to another 4 of the 4 cost, or not 4 cost, the 5 cost, I can't speak English, Suru. You may discard 2 cards and your opponent returns 1 of their cards to their hand. The only thing about this card is that it is something your opponent chooses. However, on an empty board, this card is absolutely disgusting, because in most, if not all instances, if your opponent's got 1 card on the field, they have to bounce it. They're forced to. And then the last 4 of the deck when it comes to the characters is 4 of the 5 cost Isho. Excuse my proxies, they were a bit rudimentary. On play, you may trash 2 cards. If your opponent's got 6 more cards in their hand, they place 2 to the bottom of the deck. That triggers leader effect, so you draw 2 cards. Don times 1, and when attacking, you may discard a card, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power during this turn. This card is amazing for this deck. As you can see, it is a 5 cost 7 10k, which means if you are going first, you can play this on your curve and you will have an attacker that's really, really good for the rest of the game. And then we are on to the 2-ofs of the deck. We are on 2 copies of Resonante. Obviously, opponent's turn, if your blue navy characters would be removed from the field by your opponent's card effect, you may rest this character and then discard a card as well, obviously triggering leader effect. Then you have Zephyr, another 2k. Trash 2 cards from your hand, triggers leader effect. Activate meaning you may trash this character, you bounce one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less to their hand. This is one of the 2ks that you don't really play all that often, but it does come up. Then we're on 2 copies of Xion. This is definitely for the event heavy decks, more specifically Yupi Lupi's coming back into the format. Sanji's definitely coming into the format very, very quickly, and it's one of these things where I believe that this card will see a significant amount of play, especially when it comes to other decks in the format that do run a lot of counter events, more specifically something like Mihawk. Then we are on 2 copies of another new card, Bluegrass, a card that I was very odd on. I don't know how I feel about it. On play, you may place up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Normally pretty okay for getting rid of searchers, chump blockers, and the like. Whenever attacking, you can draw 1, discard 1. It's essentially a free cycle on a 6k body. Obviously, you're always going +1 with it because you are drawing off of leader effect. Then onto the technical events for the deck. We are on 4 copies of Ice Block Pheasant Peck. This card is obviously pretty good. It's pretty much a radical beam for this deck, and it obviously goes +1. And the last navy card in the entire deck has 2 copies of Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. This is one of the few decks that this card is actually searchable, which I think is really fucking funny. It always does give people a jump scare when you say, oh, Toshigi search Raging Tiger. You're like, the fuck? That's a navy card. I think that's always really, really funny. Then the last 4 cards for the deck is 2 copies of Pudding, obviously. Unfortunately, this deck is blue. It can play this card, and 2 copies of Red Rock. So, I'm going to show you the optimal card for going second first, as that is what this deck seems to particularly want to do. Most, if not all of the time, I will show you these as a best case scenario. This doesn't necessarily mean this is what you will have, but if you see most, if not all of these cards in your opening hand going second, 9 times out of 10, you should probably not mulligan a hand, and, well, in most, if not all, this is it's a hand that normally has some combination of Toshigi and Resonante, as well as however many more cards. So we will get our 2 Don. The card we draw here is possibly irrelevant. What is the card? Oh, it's a Garb. It is actually kind of relevant. So what we will simply do is we will tap 1 to start by playing out the Toshigi. Obviously, we will look at the top 5 cards. Ooh, this is a fucking good search. So we have access to Sengoku, Kuzan. We can't take the Toshigi because she can't take herself. We have pretty much have access to everything we need. We have access to a 2k, a mid-range play, another Garb, and a 2k. In most, if not all instances, if you don't have the Sengoku in your hand already, we would most likely take it. But considering the fact we don't know what's in our hand, well, I could probably know 1 card we have the Garb. I can actually see what the rest of this hand is. Oh my god, this hand is actually fucking cracked. We have so much good stuff to work with. So in most, if not all instances, I will probably actually take another 2k, because we have the 1k from the Resonante, as well as just a generic 2k anyway, which is always really, really nice. So in this instance, we can also rest the 1 dot for the Resonante to keep our board protected for a majority of the game, but it's obviously, I would prefer to have something to discard off of the Sengoku. So, now on our 4 Don turn, this is where the hand advantage of this deck really starts to show out. So what we will do, we will draw for turn. Oh, sick, we have an Isho. What we will do, we will tap 1, 2, and 3 Don to play out the Sengoku. What we will do with the Sengoku, considering the fact that we have multiple cards to discard, we will discard the Isho, because it's not a card we particularly need at the moment. We will search the top 5 for any navy, or for any 2 navy cards, should I say, put them into our hand, and, well, we'll bot deck through. So we will search for Kuzan, Hina, Pudding, Sakazuki, and a Bluegrass. This is a really good search. Considering we don't have a Kuzan, it's definitely a card we will be taking. And depending on what the rest of your hand is, it is something that's probably not too bad to keep, all things considered. The Bluegrass is not even that bad in this instance, because it's something we can discard off of something else. But what I will likely do is we will take the Hina, because it gives us an extra 2k to work with. We will bottom deck the rest. And now, because we have discarded a card, leader effect will trigger, we will draw another card. Oh, sick, another Resonante. So by turn 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in hand. And it's really, really solid. The only problem is with this that you can lose into Pudding. So now I can attach one Don to Kuzan and I can swing 6k with him. My opponent can either 2k or take the hit, realistically. Now we are on our turn 3 or our 6 Don turn. What we will do, obviously we have the 6 Don, we will draw for turn. We have our Ice Block Pheasant Peck. This is where stuff starts to get really, really fun. So we will tap all 6 Don that we have here available to us, and we will play out the Kuzan. Obviously, we have a lot of 5 or more cards in hand, so we will get the +1 cost on it. So we will activate the effects of Kuzan. We will discard the Ice Block Pheasant Peck to stun one of our opponent's characters and prevent them from attacking, which now triggers our leader effect. We will draw a card again. Oh, sick! We drew another one. That's perfectly fine by us. We can, this is where we start doing board control, because obviously our opponent hopefully has some weenies on board, so what we can do, we can swing 2 with the Tashigi, the 3 with the Sengoku, and swing 5 at leader. This is where they'll likely to counter out of it, because it's like, okay, now you're kind of taking the piss with these swings. We are on our 8 Don turn. This is where this deck starts to get really good. We will draw for turn. We have another Ice Block Pheasant Peck. That's kind of not what we want to see, but hey, it is what it is. What we will do, we will tap all 8 for the probably main playmaker of the deck, which is the SR Garp. What we will do, we will activate the effects. We will discard, let's say we discard a Resonante this time around. We can then, we now have a really good target for it. We will play out the Sakazuki. We will trigger leader effects. We will draw a card. Oh, we have another Isho. Then the Sakazuki on play will draw us 1 and 2 cards. So we have a lot of stuff to work with. Now what we can do, we have a lot of stuff we can work with. We will activate the Sakazuki effect. We will discard the Isho. Unfortunately, he's not particularly good going second. Well, he is and he isn't at the same time, but you would rather just play the Kuzan. And we will add a rested Don to our leader. So now we have a lot to work with. We can swing 6k with leader. Our opponent's likely going to 2k. And we can swing 8 with the Kuzan. This is where the deck becomes a significantly more open-ended ordeal. Because now we're at 10 Don, we have a lot we can do. Obviously on a 10 Don, we will draw for turn. Oh, we have a second Red Rock. This is where stuff gets a little bit tricky because we are unsure of what we can actually do. Well, first of all, considering we are at our 10 Don turn, what we can do is tap the 1 Don. We will replace the Tashigi with this copy of Resonante. So now it means that this board, that is honestly quite formidable, has its own protection because we can discard whatever we like. Now we have a lot to work with. We can either discard or we can either play out another Sengoku to search for another card, which realistically is probably a good play. We will tap 3, play another Sengoku. We will discard a Red Rock because 2 is a bit excessive. We will look at the top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh, wonderful. We have another Garp into Kuzan. We don't really need the second Sakazuki, all things considered. We will bottom deck the rest, and we will draw a card off of leader effect. Oh, sick, another Garp. This is where this deck starts to get really, really good, because we then have swinging leader. We have the rested Don attached effect from Sakazuki. We also have an abundance of swings we can work with. Let me show you the odd curve. This is going to be the going first curve, or the odds Don curve, should I say. One of the things about this deck that was very, very apparent to me and to everyone else that was playing the deck was the deck really struggled to go first because it really had no good characters to play on the 5 Don turn because you're obviously 1 off from playing the Kuzan. So we were unsure of what we wanted out of it. Then when EBO3 released in the East, they got the Abject of Hina, which I believe is 5 cost, 5k, discard a card, bounce one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 5 or less. I'll put it up on the screen to show you guys. But then that didn't really solve the problem because it was only a 5k body, I believe. Then when EBO4 was revealed, we have Isho. Isho is one of the best attackers in this deck, and it's obviously for the odd curve, and it's one of the best things that you could get out of this deck, because most decks nowadays are drawing 1,000,001 cards per turn, so you're likely to always have at least something to hand it. So, to start with the 1 Don turn, it is going to be very, very simple. We're going to tap 1, we will play out the Tashigi. We will search for a Isho, Garp, a Red Rock, a Sakazuki, and a Ice Block Pheasant Peck. Oh, it's genuinely such a hard choice, but considering the fact that we don't really have a lot to go off of, we're going to take the Isho. We're going to bottom deck the rest, Now we are on our 3 done turn. We will draw for turn. Hey, it was 90. That's not too bad. We don't really have a lot to work with on our 3 done turn. However, we still get access to do one of the best searches in the entire game through Sengoku. We will discard this bluegrass, which it could be another card you play in your 5 done turn for a 4-drop 6k swinger and well as a 6k swing with lead. It's one of these things where like I think the Isho is personally better on the 5 done turn. Ooh, that's definitely a search. We'll take it a Garb because we obviously don't have one. Realistically, I think another Sengoku is probably in order, so we will bottom deck the rest. We will then get to trigger our leader effect. We will draw a card. Hey, look, a pudding. This is where pudding going first is definitely one of the things that this deck does quite well because it's drawing a shit ton of cards, but it's also you're making your opponent not to draw the same amount of cards as you, essentially. On our 5 don turn, a lot of the time, the going first turns are very linear in comparison to what you would do in a second. We will draw for turn. We have another copy of Isho. What we will do, I can't speak English, is tap all 5 Don to play out Isho. What we will do is then we will activate Isho's on play effects, discarding another copy of Isho and realistically probably the pudding. We will then hand loop our opponent for 2 cards and then leader effect will trigger. We will get 1 and 2 cards. Oh, our hand is decently better now, which is always very, very nice for us. Which now we will swing a 5k at leader and then pass our turn there. On our 7 don turn, normally this is where, like, if we're going second, we would normally play out the Garv, but we're on the odd curve and we are 1 don short. So we will, on 7 don, draw for turn. What we can do is we can either play the Tashigi and the Kuzan to get some extra hand advantage, which is actually probably the best place. So we will play out the Tashigi, we will tap 1, we will do our search. We also 2k. That's what first. Oh, another Kuzan. That's probably actually what we want out of this because we now have an extra Kuzan to play off of the Garb and stun for our opponents. Obviously, now using the remaining 6 Don, we will play out the Kuzan. We will activate the Kuzan effect. We will discard the Sengoku. We will stun one of our opponent's characters or prevent it from attacking. And then we will activate leader effects to draw a card. We now have 2 swings to start working with. We can swing with our leader and swing with the Isho. If we had 1 Don on it, we could give something minus 2k for this turn and deal with it that way. We are on our 9 Don turn, and now that we have access to the 8 Don, this Garp in our hand becomes live and it becomes probably one of the best cards we can play. So we will draw for turn. Oh, we have probably the optimal draw for this turn. So we will rest 8 of our Don, play over the Sengoku. We will play out our Monkey D Garp. We will then activate the Garp effect. We will discard the Zephyr. We will then play out the Sakazuki over the Tashigi. We will then trigger leader effect to draw a card off of the Garp discard. Then we will activate the Sakazuki effect to draw 1 and draw 2 more. Now we are starting to cook. We can activate the Sakazuki effect, discarding the Isho, to then put the final rested Don onto our leader. Realistically, it's probably not a good idea because we have the Icebox Pheasant Pack in hand, but who cares? I'm greedy. And we can activate the Sakazuki. Well, we've activated it, so we will get the trigger off of Kuzan. We will... Oh, sick. We now have the 2k that we essentially discarded earlier. Now, this is where this deck, obviously, like on the even curve, starts to get really, really nasty. So we have a 5k swing, a 7k swing, and an 8k swing. Like the 10 Don turn on the even curve, this deck, obviously, this is when it becomes open-ended. We will draw for turn. We have a copy of a Sakazuki. If we had an extra Garp, which realistically we could probably be quite greedy for, we will tap 1 for the Tashigi, see if we can find one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have found a Garp, and this is where this starts to get very, very fun because we have so much advantage. We can just pretty much pop off from here. Those were the optimal curves and, well, the cards to play on said turns. But there are definitely some cards that obviously have been mildly omitted from the deck that are probably just as good. Realistically, one of the cards you could play, but unfortunately did get outclassed very, very quickly, was the full cost Porcelino blocker. Despite this card being, honestly, reading really strong, it's a full cost 5k blocker that once per turn can't be removed if you discard a card, or can't be removed if you discard a card, which triggers leader effect, and then it becomes a 4-drop 6k blocker on your opponent's turn. I don't think this card's bad, but unfortunately, Marco is just kind of a better blocker because obviously on KO he draws you 2 cards, he's bigger, essentially, like on the turn you can play him, he's a brick you can discard, well, brick as such, and it's just honestly, unfortunately, one of these cards that are sadly got very outclassed very quickly. And even then, modern lists of Kuzan don't really play him. You could honestly play more copies of Resonante and of Zephyr. I've not really tinkered with the idea of them as of yet, but it's definitely something you can very much consider. One of the older cards that some people do play but have mostly cut is the 8-cost Aramaki. Definitely one of these cards that I think is really, really strong, honestly. He's an 8-cost AK blocker. Activate main, you can discard a card, then you place up to one character with a cost of 2 or less at the bottom of their owner's deck, and this character gains 3,000 power, so essentially becomes an 8-drop 11k swinger that acts as removal and drone. But it's definitely one of those things where I can definitely see why people cut the card, but I think it's quite cool. I definitely think there will be some place for it. And one of the other cards that I've not tested at all, but it reads really, really strong, and that is Ice Time. Ice Time, obviously, if you don't know what it does, you may discard a card from your hand, and if your leader has Navy type, up to 2 of your opponent's characters with 10,000 power or less cannot attack until your opponent's next end phase. So it essentially acts as a very big Kuzan on like a late game, I would suppose. But it's one of these things where like Kuzan just kind of is better because he obviously he's a 6-drop 8k body. And he is, well, very, very strong to swing with, and he's one of the few cards that this deck kind of centers around. But I can also definitely understand why people would play it, but if I were to play it and test it, I would probably only play 2 of it. One of the cards, obviously, that's being omitted here, it's a card I physically don't have in my hands, despite not having the Isho in my hands either, is Hina from EBO3. I don't know a lot about the card, I've not really tested it, but I definitely think it's... I think with Isho now just being a better card, I don't know if you'll play it or not, because this deck already has enough ways to remove stuff and it draws enough cards. This deck needs odd curve attackers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. It was definitely a trip down memory lane for this deck, and well, I am so excited for what this deck has in store for us when it comes to the following format. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment down below. If you do, keep it civil, and just make sure to have fun as always. That's all from me. Have a good one, stay safe, and happy playing. See you in the next one.